Welcome to the Petrichor Marching Arts Podcast, where we talk all things marching arts. My name's Bryson Teal. I'm a songwriter, composer, and mixing engineer, teaching and designing for drum corps, marching bands, and indoor percussion groups on the East Coast, as well as my mainstay school, Newtown High School in Connecticut. I'm sitting down with performers, educators, and creators to discuss perspectives on the activity, to see where it's at now and where it's headed in the future. This month's episode is with Anthony Andrea, quad player, recent age out. You might know him from Cadets, United Percussion, and CWP. We're going to talk today about his views on leadership, as well as his experiences writing and arranging for the first time. But all right, sweet. So we can start this. So, hi, Anthony.
Hello, Bryson.
So I guess, we met back at a 7th Regiment camp, I think in like 2012 or something.
I auditioned for 7th Regiment for the 2013 season.
Yeah.
And I got cut. I remember I messaged you on Facebook.
Oh,
I was
really?
asking if you were auditioning for Blue Stars, and
yes.
if you made, Jeff told me if you made Blue Stars, I would get the spot 7.
Dark.
But then you're like, sorry, man, I didn't make it. So I was like, So
yeah,
I got cut
the
from
whole
7.
Pulse staff. Like
Yeah.
John Mapesney and Grom moved in there. All the Pulse kids came the second day of
Okay.
camp. And I was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, so
No way.
I guess I kind of met you online.
Yeah.
And then you came and taught my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I was ever actually to camp with you.
I think you were. I think there's a video that Scott Bailey
when we played the
might have
Cadets?
posted. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was in
He
there.
brings that up.
I was wearing the Blue Star shirt like a
Yeah,
dingus, so.
yeah.
But yeah, do you want to run down kind of your career to date resume from like when you started like auditioning for 7th Regiment and like where you've kind of gone from that
Yeah.
first experience?
Yeah, so, I joined a high school drumline, and that's kind of what introduced me to the DCI, WGI world. Found 7th Regiment was a local group, so auditioned there, got cut. Went to Hurricanes, which is a DCA group, and that's kind of where I got my start. I was 15. I was after my sophomore year of high school. And then from there, I went on to 7th Regiment, marched there for 2 years. I auditioned for Bluecoats after my first year, but I got cut there.
Oh, really?
I did.
Who
yeah.
was teaching there while you were auditioning?
Well, TJ actually was the tenor tech.
Oh, right.
Which is funny
Yeah.
because he went on to tech me at Cadets later.
Yeah.
But so we joke about that. But so I was at 7th Regiment for 2 years, and then I got a spot at Cadets, and I stayed there until I aged out. And then right before I made Cadets, I did CWP, Cadets
Yes.
Winter Percussion.
Yeah.
That was kind of a little bit of a foot in the door at the Cadets, I think.
Mhm.
And then I went on to March United because Paul was there. I knew some guys there, and I liked what they were doing with the program. So I was there for 2 years, 2018 and 2019.
And now you're at Cadets teaching.
Yeah, so now I
moment.
got hired as a staff member, like a quad technician intern at Cadets. So I'm helping out there. I've been helping with you at Newtown every once in a while, and I'm arranging for New Milford's indoor percussion show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's a journey. It's a journey and a half.
It is quite a journey.
So at Cadets, I think over time, I think the quad line specifically started to build a reputation for being not only good, but also being one of the better parts of the Corps, so to speak, or just a high operating or well operating part of the Corps. And I think the last year specifically, I started getting wind of that and seeing a bunch of posts about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously true. You can kind of see it in the way. I feel like your demeanor is perfect for leading a group like that. The playing was awesome. I know a lot of people are like, oh, this is the best quad line in years, which I can kind of agree with. There was kind of a lull after kind of like the 2012, 13, 14 area where
Agreed.
groups from 10, 11, like those Phantom quad lines and the SCV quad lines, once Rennick transitioned, they were huge. Like the Bluecoats quad lines, they were huge for a while. Then it kind of dropped off for a little bit. And I think a lot of people felt like you guys started to bring it back just a little bit more in comparison to how it used to be.
Yeah, I definitely felt like that was something I wanted to make happen. Because in 2016, when we were all rookies, that was kind of a rough year for the quad line.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't too long ago. We weren't like in that sort of spot. And because we didn't know the culture, we didn't know what we were doing. And then the next year we had a whole staff change and just a couple of vets. So, but yeah, that was kind of something I really wanted to make happen with the quad line. yeah, I'm glad people really liked what we did. I'm always very critical of how we played, so sometimes we're like, I don't know, but then people seem to enjoy it, so I'm glad people like are sort of recognizing the quad line now a little bit more.
And I think that's a interesting perspective to hear too. Because the same thing with like any kind of art or any kind of, I guess, like passion project or whatever. Like the more you do it, you're still going to be critical, and even though you're getting better, it's like it's almost like the same headspace, which kind of allows you to get better.
Right,
for sure.
It's one of the more unfortunate things of as you grow as a player, it's nothing is satisfying.
Yeah.
So like you don't even know what's good anymore because you just hear the bad. And I mean, it is good for advancing your skills, but it's also kind of takes away some of the fun. Mm-hmm. So you have to sometimes take a step back and be like, okay, this is cool. Like I'm just going to, I can hear some of the gray or something that I hit a rim or whatever, but you have to appreciate what you've done and like how far you've come for sure. It's
always interesting explaining that to high school students.
Yeah.
Because they'll learn, like they finally like learn something like, all right, we're getting in there. It's getting better. It's like, all right, now we can just move on. And now there's this whole other thing that you guys have to do. And they're like, oh, great. I'm still bad. All right.
Yeah. We're not even
Thanks,
close,
Bryson.
Guys.
Yeah. So I guess in relation to that, how do you think there's any key factors within those years that you were there that kind of led you or led the quad line to getting to where it did this past season?
I think a lot of it was the personalities of the players.
Yeah.
We had a really great vibe, especially from 17 and then going into 18, and then 19 was all the 18 guys. So we all attacked each day the same way. And no line is perfect. We had our problems sometimes, but
for sure.
I think we were really mature in how we handled ourselves. And also, I think a big thing that we did was we had fun, surprisingly. Like, we weren't just constant grind mode.
Yeah.
We knew we were actually the goobers of the drum line, like, totally, for sure. Everyone's like the quad line, they're just goofing off again. But we also, like, knew how to take it seriously. Tom's thing is always, like, you're either on or you're off. Mm-hmm. And we were really good at flipping the switch. And when we're on, and we're off, we can chill and have fun together. So that's kind of what I think was really important for growing that line.
Yeah, I think the personality things is so interesting. So when I got to World Class for the first time, the bass drummers there were really good. Mm-hmm. They were at Scouts, and that was the first time I experienced like the bass line kind of collective vibe thing for real.
Oh, yeah.
So
they were wild.
I mean, they'd be wearing the same shirts everywhere. They'd always go to Walmart and grab the same clothes and just like always be dressing the same. And
HB
just, like,
slept in a line every night.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. Like, and some people might not even realize that that's what happens. Is kind of like synchronize the brain. Oh yeah. Especially with the 5 drums where they have to be synchronized. Yeah. You know what's up all the time. Sure.
Like snare drummers or quads, they might all have their tendencies. But so maybe everyone's crushing something a little bit here or there, but they're all together because they're all playing unison part.
Yeah.
But if you mess up anything like that on bass drum, it sounds like
it's tragic.
Like, like it needs to be really perfect. So they need to be totally in sync.
Yeah. When was the first time you were actually like the quad section leader?
Cadets?
Yeah.
It was 2018.
2018. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about kind of your transition to stepping into that role from previously, from all the years before that? Because were you also a quad section leader at 7th, or was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
2015. It was my second year.
So that was your first experience kind of like at a drum corps level doing that?
Yes, yeah.
So how was it? Were you trying to take experiences that you had at 7th and trying to fix yourself and fix maybe things you did before that you didn't like and try to apply that to your new situation? Or was there any mindset like that going on for you?
Yeah, so I feel like it's at 7th when I was section leader. I didn't really take charge much. I kind of preferred to lead by example, and that's kind of how I continued on to cadets. So I think that was in general a good thing. I think it's good for leaders and leadership to remember that they're a member first, and that they have a job to do just like everyone else there. They're not just yelling at other kids.
Right.
But I think also at 7th I could have stepped up a little bit more, maybe ran things a little bit more, like sectionals or pad sectionals or anything like that.
Yeah.
Probably could have stepped up a little bit, but I was young. I was just 17, so I had a lot to grow. But I mean, I think every member, whatever drum line you're on, you obviously have a section leader that you have to listen to or follow, and you see their flaws. So not that they might not be bad, but you see what they're doing that you might not like or whatever. And I think my big thing was I kind of took all the things that I saw my previous section leaders not do that I think should be done.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was like really trying to improve upon my previous section leaders. I think that's how you grow a program too, is the leadership should learn from the previous leadership and expand on it, because it can always be better. It can always, change with the times. So I think that was my big thing going into 2018 was kind of like, how would I want a quad line run as a member?
Yeah.
And then that's kind of what I based everything off of. Like, am I going to be the rock solid section leader, or am I just going to be on the sideline? Like, or am I just going to let things happen? Like, how do I want to? Yeah. It's really, and it is a game of how passive you are versus how aggressive you are versus how assertive you are. You could say those are three, like, trifecta of leading.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're all important sometimes in their own way. I think you should, it's not good to be too aggressive.
Yeah.
You don't want people to turn on you. But sometimes it's good to, fire people up. I think that there is some value in that.
With all that stuff in mind, are there any key mistakes looking back that either you have made or that you see other people make that can contribute to, I don't want to say like the failure of a season, but not reaching a full potential within the season, within whether it's your subsection or how that kind of trickles down to the rest of the drum line, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is leaders not being introspective and like not seeing themselves from another person's point of view.
Right.
They do what they think is right, and they're like, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to say, that's what I want to do. And instead of thinking, well, how are other people seeing what I'm doing? How is this going to affect them emotionally?
Yeah.
How is this going to improve them? How is this not? And I think a lot of leaders just, they get the role, they're like, cool, and then they just start telling people what to do, and they think nothing's changed for them. But really, a lot has changed when you step into that role. You need to kind of look at things with a whole new perspective, for sure. It is a responsibility. And
I think that's interesting too, because when I was actually talking to Phil, I think we got on the lines of the same type of thing at one point. There's a video that the Cats at Gridbook put out. I think it was an interview with John Mapes, where he was talking about how he was getting into building his first kind of major program, which I think was Pacifica High School. And I think they asked him, like, oh, what's like one of the key mistakes? And his first response, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty positive, was that if you're not being introspective as a teacher, then you can't actually improve upon the mistakes, because you don't actually realize how much power you truly have over the situation, over a program. And looking back, I can notice how, like, a band director or, again, any type of leader, even leaders inside of the drumline, can have their personalities trickle on to everyone else, and it's just totally subconscious. And how detrimental it can be if you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's not even just the playing, it's really how you are as a person. That's a great point. It's your personality. It spreads through the line.
I think it took them a few years to grow Pacifica into, I think they were in finals for a crazy amount of years. And I think one of their last years, they won with like 2 snare drummers, and they just had a really just solid program set up from scratch, just because of that introspective nature, like always checking in on themselves and making sure what they're doing actually makes sense. And it's like evolving with not just the times, but with the players they're getting and how the program's improving. But yeah. No, I thought that was interesting that was your first response as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could say a bunch of things, but I feel like overall, it's really important that you're always criticizing yourself.
Yeah.
And what can you do better? It's always, if your fellow members, aren't doing what's expected of them, it's on you. It's not on them. Sometimes it's tough because people don't really know what to do always. Like, not everyone, I think leadership is natural, but also it needs to be taught a little bit more.
Definitely.
Especially in like high schools. Like, I was first section leader in high school, and I was an awful section leader. I'll just be straight up. Like, I remember it was after my first summer of drum corps. So
it's the classic.
It's a classic. I was the classic kid. Like, everyone is at that stage at some point. So it'd be like during a rep, and we'd be like really slow with the mat and like yell, guys, we're slow, like while drumming. I'm like, looking back, it's not good at all. But no one told me like
Yeah.
what I should do, like how to approach problems. Like maybe that would have been obvious to someone else not to yell. I was like, I don't know, like I'm just trying to give feedback during a rep. That was kind of my, I guess, thought process. But no one, not to my knowledge, like really teaches their section leaders what it means to do that, or like what role that is and what it means to lead a line.
Yeah.
So I think if high school started to do that, it could really be advantageous to the program. What makes a great program is the older kids teaching the younger kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just continuing that cycle. And as, you know, every generation gets better from there.
Right.
But if, you know, the older kids, the section leaders are making life awful, or like they're just, you know, they're screwing the vibe.
Yeah.
No one's going to want to be there. It just kind of ruins everything. So it really is from leadership that a program grows.
Yeah.
So that's important not to ignore.
I remember in high school, I was really confused about how like the intensity of drumming and like drum corps translated to band. I think I was just interpreting everything incorrectly.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't like it's intense for sure, obviously.
Yeah,
but it's like, I was also coming from the standpoint where I think I was also getting out, not like pent up aggression, but just like, I don't just like felt good to just like be super aggressive, like with the face and everything.
Yeah.
But I think I was taking it, I just like took it too far in my own brain in certain ways. Like when I was at Scouts, I was like super, super into that.
Yeah.
And then it actually like trickled into my life. Not that I was just like being super mean to people, but it was like just always tense.
Yeah.
On the edge.
That'll happen. That can happen for sure.
It took me years to get out of that. Like once I got to Newtown, I finally like chilled out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And I think I finally got to the place that I wish I could have been at when I was marching, because then I would have been much better and probably would have marched longer, even though I just had other things I had to do.
Enjoyed it more.
Yeah. Because it was definitely my mindset that was making it 100 times harder for me to do that stuff. Because, you know, at the same time, I enjoyed that kind of thing, and I was like feeding into it, but it was also, you know, the opposite end coming at me at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about that. Like, that's why I love the Cadets. I've stayed there. I'm all about the aggression and intensity, but it's like the on-off thing. As soon as the rep's done, you just got like mental chill pill.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all right, now I'm a human again.
Yeah, and I would never do that. And it wasn't that I was like yelling at people all the time, but again, there's like that tension like inside of me that's
it's in your voice.
Yeah,
like,
but someone could have, you know, if someone had taught me, like especially in the leadership position, like that idea, and I'm sure someone did, but I don't know if it necessarily translated with me, which is also a hard part of teaching, trying to figure out how things translate.
Yeah. You could say one thing and they do something totally different than what you meant.
I guess with especially high school kids, not even just, you know, drum corps section leaders and stuff. Is there any other things that you think are paramount to the success of someone starting from scratch, like that young as a section leader? You know, maybe if they're like kind of like in that 15, 16 area when they're actually like sophomores and juniors, where they might encounter being a section leader.
Mm-hmm. So like for like how would you teach someone brand new to being a section leader?
I guess. Yeah. So I guess that, and also, you know, do you think because of the younger age and especially starting from scratch, if there's anything that might be also important, maybe if not more important than just the introspective side of things?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, particularly because of the age thing, you know, they're just immature. You know, high school kids are immature. So, and that's not their fault. It's just, you know, that's growing up. Yeah. And, you know, people who are 40 probably say we're still immature. Like, you know, definitely. It's a constant battle of growth, and it is kind of introspection in a way, but I guess it's more teaching them that they're not above anyone else. Yes. Kind of going back to the everyone's a member first thing. Mm-hmm. I think in drum corps, maybe people are generally better about that because, you know, they're super into the activity. They're super into execution. But at high school, they might not understand that yet. And they're just think, oh, I'm a leader. I got to yell at people. Yeah. So it's more about, hey, like, you're still a marching band member at your local high school. Like, you need to chill out. Like, this is fun. This is cool. But, like, you don't need to yell. You don't need to do anything crazy. Really, you shouldn't, probably in high school, shouldn't even really be giving many comments. Yeah. Like, here or there maybe is fine. But you should really just be setting an example, particularly in high school. And the leadership is more not what are you telling people to do, but people are going to be looking to you to how to react to things. It's like when a child falls and they look to their parents, like is their dad laughing or is he like freaking out? And then they start to cry if he's freaking out. Right. And as you get older, that still exists. It's still involuntary. Like how does your leader react? That's how your members are going to react. So I think in high school it's really important that the leader is on a higher level maturity wise, right, and kind of knows how to handle more difficult situations, or how to like deal with someone who might not be like following the rules, or just being an annoying member. Like it's not your job to yell. Yeah. So it is kind of just a maturity thing, I think, more so at the high school level than it is anything else.
And it also makes me think about the idea of, I'm sure you might have encountered this at some point, kind of section leaders being appointed that are just the most mature person. They might not necessarily be the most, or like the most mature player.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you have 2 snare drummers. What does it matter? Like it's they're all going to be about the same. Like maybe someone's a little better, but they're so close together. It's not like you got 10 yards of dudes. Yeah. So,
and I think another factor inside of that too is like high school is it kind of is a socially hostile environment.
Oh yeah.
Especially for like band kids and stuff like that, But I can imagine that because a lot of kids tend to be on edge due to that being the case in a lot of high schools, if not pretty much all of them.
It's like they have an image that they want to
and like
show.
When they have someone that's trying to, or is literally supposed to have slightly more power, they're kind of just, again, supposed to be that mature 0.2 person, where if there's even any slight semblance of, I don't want to say aggression, but like they might be abusing that power, then there's also an overreaction on the non-section leader side too, that causes even more.
There's less tolerance.
And then the section leader has to deal with that as well, and then there's this constant tension in that regard.
Yeah, for sure.
Which something I definitely don't think about, or didn't think about, I should say, when I was at Southington High School. Because I'd always be mad. I was mad about something. Like I was a super goofy kid, but like.
Yeah. Were you section leader your junior or senior year?
I think it was my junior and senior year.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, no one does. That's the problem.
And that was with Kevin and his brother. Were working there too. But I just remember so many issues that could have easily been resolved just by simple communication that just wasn't happening.
Definitely.
And I would imagine that's probably another huge thing. The section leader just communicating through those weird tense moments.
Passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, like
when they tap off with shots.
Yeah.
Oh, he's mad. Like,
have you ever found yourself in moments at Cadets where you, granted it seemed like it was a pretty decent environment for what you guys were doing, but still had to talk through with the other people there?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I definitely made some mistakes there as well. Still had to grow. And I didn't end as a perfect section leader either.
Yeah.
But no one is. I think that's the whole point. But yeah, we definitely had some times where like, someone forgot to do their job and it annoyed everyone else, or whatever you want. And sometimes I lost my temper a little bit. I did. Go a little too far into the aggressive side, like trying to get it out of them, and it didn't work, and just upsets them, and that's never good. It's never helpful. Right. And what I would do is, I think another thing on this sort of line of talk is really important to say as a section leader that you're sorry, or that you messed up.
Yes. Yeah.
I think actually, that's part of introspection, but I think those are like 2 huge things that I would, even during the summer, like try to remind myself, like, I have to be the first to fess up to anything I do wrong. Yeah. Or else these guys won't like admit when they're wrong. Like it's another leadership. It's setting the example. Like I gotta call myself out if I'm gonna call them out. So I'll do that sometimes. I'd be like, "Yo, your deals are crushed. That time, I was late to the attack, and I would include myself in all the comments. Yeah. So like I'm not gonna call someone else out without calling myself out. But yeah. Back to the original point. Sometimes I would like sit down and like if I lost my temper later at lunch or something and be like, "Hey man, I'm like sorry, like this is what really happened. Like can we fix this? Or like, are you cool? Like, are we cool? And just,
Yeah.
clear the air before you don't want to maintain tension.
No,
like tension isn't good. And then if you just leave it, it just creates an awkward, terrible vibe. So
Yeah.
It's really important to say you're sorry and sit down and really hear them out too.
Yeah. I learned a lot about that teaching too. It's a lot of the stuff that I feel like you probably learned marching. I had to learn on the opposite side, from like a different perspective.
Right.
Like, and it was just, again, like trying to be introspective, trying to purposely figure out what's going on. And that was one of the things, like if I would say something over the mic in percussion ensemble and it was just wrong. And like, if it was like a height thing that I was just wrong about the height,
Yeah.
like I'd finish up and say, all right, guys, sorry.
I apologize.
That was totally not correct. Just so no one's yelling at each other like, oh, but Bryson said.
Yeah. Oh, classic.
Like, this is what it is. Now let's just reset and we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Now we're all good. But I feel like so many people are afraid to admit that. They just feel like they're going to hurt their ego so hard.
Yeah.
But it's just so detrimental. And I didn't really realize that for the longest time. And I don't even know if I'm conscious how often I was ever doing that or like saying something wrong and realizing it and also not saying anything about it. I really have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm sure all
and
the
sometimes
time.
it is tough to admit. Like, you're like, I don't want to say it, but like, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
I was wrong. I'm sorry. Like,
at least from my perspective as a teacher, like working with leaders over the past several years, I think that's one of the biggest things for me that I've noticed could really fix a lot of situations. I'll see people yelling at each other. It's happening at school too, but it's like both ends aren't willing to give up their ego they're holding on to in order to fix the situation, which I find the hardest to deal with. And that's like when I have to start sitting down with people and start sitting down with kids and just be like, hey, like we need to chill out. This is just marching band. I know there's tensions here, but like you just got to communicate with your friends here, my guys.
And I feel like the more tension, like the less tension we had on the field kind of resulted in even more like better cooperation and just more fun off the field too. Like,
yeah,
I noticed the more I would call myself out or like say like, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I noticed the other guys would do it too. They'd be like, hey, that was me. Like everyone fesses up. I remember Joe C one time was like, who was that? Like, who messed up? And then someone like raised their hands like, I did it. He's like, dude, like I would have never done that when I marched. I was just pointing to the guy next to me. He did it.
It was this guy.
But like, I mean, it's really funny. It's a funny joke. But like, it's cool that we were able to fess up and like we generally left the egos at the door.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was really crucial to like having fun, mostly like having a good summer. It's all about the vibe and no egos.
Yeah.
So I think that was really beneficial.
But it seems to me that with this kind of, with the internet too, creating this kind of like, not family culture, but it's just like a community.
Yeah.
People like
definitely.
Gridbook, like John and them over there are doing great stuff. With Gridbook, it seems like the players and their playability is increasing, the quality of the performers. And I wonder how much of that not only has to do with the community, but also because of more groups being kind of how people like think about Blue Coats and stuff and just other groups where there's actually still like happy moments going on. Like,
yeah,
it can be relaxed, and then like on off switch is a huge thing for I think a lot of people.
Definitely.
In achieving that. But I don't know if you've seen that too. It just seems like the talent pool has been increasing. I don't know if it's because I can see them on Instagram posting their videos or not, but the groups seem to be getting better too and playing harder stuff.
I mean, the music undoubtedly is harder these days, at least rhythmically. Like, my God.
Yeah.
Like, back in the day, you just throw out a triplet flam spree.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, I can't even tell what that is, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Tom Rarick, his writing is being pushed at Blue Coats. It gets different every year. Mike McIntosh was huge. Still is huge with that stuff. Just innovating. Mike Jackson, which I didn't even know for the longest time, has just been a WGI Hall of Famer. Like, working with famous groups his high school since the 90s, worked with Vanguard, with all those huge groups, wrote Twitch for Vanguard, and then became what was at Blue Coats, and people were like, oh, Twitch.
Yeah.
It makes me just wonder how things are going to continue moving forward with all that stuff.
Yeah, it is really interesting.
Because I mean,
far it's come.
I can't imagine it getting crazier, but I guess that's how everyone.
Yeah, that's the trend.
About it. Yeah. I guess on that note, you were writing for New Milford, for this upcoming winter
this
season.
is my first time writing.
Have you written a lot of stuff before that, or are you just kind of like just been taking in things and just trying to implement them the way you know how?
I wrote like a cadence my junior or senior year. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, no, I haven't really written anything. I don't really write licks, or I never have in the past. Like,
yeah.
I've just never really considered it. But I really want to try it because it really appealed to me.
Yeah.
Because I can jam out. Like I hear things in my head, like I can like, oh, that could sound cool, like blah blah blah. So I wanted to actually try putting on paper because I think that is really challenging.
Yeah.
To actually get your ideas down and like make them work like they did in your head 10 minutes ago. Like,
yeah.
It's tough. But yeah, so Thumper, the pit arranger for New Milford, reached out to me because he knew I was available and asked me to write. So definitely jumped on that opportunity. And it's coming along really well. It's really cool.
I saw you posted on Twitter that you saw them play some of the book for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it was
That's
my
cool.
first time hearing someone play anything I've written other than that terrible cadence.
Yeah.
And I would like to say this isn't terrible. So
yeah,
it was really cool. It was really cool.
Okay. And it's weird because it's like, I don't know if you've ever like tried to compose music in general before.
I have not, no.
And it's like, even though it's drumline, it's still literally composing music, which
it is music.
I mean, it's the literal counterpoint between sections, and is it strange for you to go through that process in that way for the first time too, like actually writing music in the same way as like writing something, having an orchestra play? You're writing something and then these drummers just immediately get to kind of hack it out and figure it out in front of your eyes or over time.
I think thankfully it's pretty natural for me getting it on the page, but the slightly weird part is the software plays it perfectly and the kids don't. And then that's to be expected, but it some things just totally don't work if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And something might sound really cool on the MP3 that explodes in rehearsal. So like that's kind of the hardest part, I think, right now for me is figuring out like how they can be pushed in their playing and what they can and can't handle, especially because I haven't seen them before. So I didn't see them at all this fall. Like my first time seeing them live was this week.
Okay.
So I didn't even know what the kids' hands looked like what the sections could do.
Yeah.
I was just kind of going off of what Thumper told me they could.
Right.
So, but seeing them live was extremely beneficial. So I'm looking forward to like going back and making some adjustments. But overall, they were doing really well with it. So that was exciting.
I never got into writing battery music at all.
You've never written anything?
No, I never wrote
Really?
cadences in high school. I never me and my buddies would write, licks every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
We just watched like too many videos of Dartmouth and just like get really into that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I never for some reason felt a huge inclination to like want to write for a battery or front ensemble, even though I was like studying classical percussion in college and stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know why. I gravitated towards the sound design stuff. That's also just what I was studying in school, and it just kind of ended up that way. Like when I went to New Milford, it was just like we had these John Mapes and Ingram shows for the first year, for your senior year or whatever. And that was my first exposure to even the idea of that. And then in the fall, I was like, oh, I can like bring my computer too, and like I can put some sub bass notes in there or something, and it just like evolved into some crazy.
I mean, the sound design stuff is super cool.
Yeah,
I've never given that a shot, but it's interesting.
But yeah, I've never even like had the thought. I just thought about that just now. How I never
occurred.
It never even occurred to me to even try that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll walk around just imagining battery, just for fun. Like, walk around my house. It's almost like someone whistles. I'll be like singing like some snare part, and I can like hear the bass run in the background in my head. Like, so I've always kind of like imagined that sort of stuff. I'm just like hanging out. So I'm like, it'd be cool to actually write something that someone's gonna play. Yeah. So that's kind of what made me want to do it.
Is there any kind of writing or even just any kind of battery thing in general that has inspired you so far to write? I mean, I would imagine just just doing band in general, like you're saying, just like you just got licks in your head every now and then. But is there any other kind of group? I mean, obviously you were at Cadets for a while with Tom, and then you were there with Colin as well for a year.
For 1 year.
Yeah. Like, do you find yourself going towards that stuff? Are you trying to like include other ideas that you might have in there as well? I mean, obviously you're including your own ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely love Tom is balls to the wall.
Yeah.
He's aggressive. And then on the opposite side of the stick, you have Vanguard, and they play very dynamically. They have a great touch. So I really like interplay. I like a lot of interplay between sections.
Yeah.
Like a lot of high schools, I feel like copy paste the snare part onto the quads.
Yeah, that's
and just change it around. I think none of my music did that. So I really like to kind of write something that is sort of like a journey, I guess is a cliche way. Like it's like I think of it as like a ride. Like it takes you in, like it swoops you around to the bass drums, the snares, the tenors, like so kind of like a mixture between those two, like the aggressiveness of tom and sort of maybe the more ups and downs of the sections playing and more a little bit like sensitive to touch like Vanguard does
like flowy and all that stuff. Yeah.
So I try, I definitely have a little bit of my own style, but now because I'm just starting, I'm sort of figuring that out.
Yeah.
So it's definitely gonna take some time to like really figure out what is my style and what am I supposed to do, or do I have a style? Can I just write whatever I want anytime?
Yeah. So
that's kind of what I'm discovering now.
When I was talking to Kevin on the podcast I recorded with him, like I think early last year. Obviously we do a lot of stuff inspired by / directly from Mike Jackson. I mean, his perspective was just like, he was really inspired by Colin for a while. So a lot of the stuff he was doing was taken from Colin. Then it just started to morph. He's like going into this Mike Jackson stuff, which, we weren't even into when we were marching. We were just kind of hating.
That is interesting.
And then, and then we eventually, I think both of us at the same time just were like, do you see that? Like, you see that show? I've never seen something like that before. I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing we were like talking a lot of poops about a couple of years ago, for some reason, just because we were being competitive, I think.
Oh yeah, sure. It's like, oh, they all suck.
But his comment was just like, yeah, man, like, I'm just some guy trying to write battery beats, but I can't, write stuff if I don't study what's already happening, study people that are Hall of Famers, such. I don't know if Colin's a Hall of Famer or not. He should be.
Yeah, he definitely does.
If he's not. And Mike, and all the other groups out there.
Yeah.
Even he was really into Blue Coats for the longest time. Mike McIntosh for the longest time. So he kind of ended up at this point. It's like, okay, I'm going to start writing. Okay, I'm using my Colin stuff, kind of morph now into this Mike Jackson stuff. But, same way as in jazz music, when they're studying, they literally transcribe and constantly play licks and songs from famous people like such as John Coltrane, the saxophone player. And he comes at it from a standpoint, it's just like, look, I'm still this young guy trying to get into it. I don't have these insanely original ideas yet, and it's crazy because when you take that stuff from Mike Jackson or get inspired by Mike Jackson or Colin, they've been doing it for so long and they're so renowned and they've been gaining more knowledge on it than most people in the world have. It's like when you take that, you just look like an amateur, which you could say like, oh yeah, I am an amateur.
I am an amateur.
But I think there's still a lot of merit, after talking with him, to doing that stuff. So I've actually like retracted my own opinions about, especially when I was younger, everyone was doing like Tom Monks.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Right.
It wasn't even talked about. Like
it's just assumed.
People are just like, all right, everyone's doing this.
Yeah. This is the vibe.
And it's now that Mike's come in and Blue Coats have been such a huge thing.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone has their Blue Coats fanboy in their Drumline in high school.
The
Hopefully
t-shirt.
just high school. Yeah. And it's like so polarizing. It's like, oh, now they're being inserted into this culture over here. And especially being on the East Coast, like people playing that stuff is super against the grain.
Oh, yeah.
So it's even more like, oh, they're just copying. It's like when in reality, everyone's just been copying everyone else for the past 20 years.
I mean, that is how the best guys get there. They learn from the best or the best of their time, and that's how they move into that position.
Yeah.
I think it is important, though, to like have your own take on things.
Yes.
I don't rip any parts like directly. I tried to be original with all of it just because I feel like that's how I'm going to learn how to get my own ideas onto the paper the best. To just force myself to write my own things and not, I remember this cool part I played once, let me write that down. Like,
exactly.
Like if you really want to grow as a composer, I'm very amateur, so but my current opinion is I need to try my own things and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. And I also don't want to overly rationalize the idea of just taking things.
Oh yeah.
But I just like have seen some merit to that, like basing it off of different types of music. And like you were saying, I was talking to Kevin, you mentioned jazz. But yeah, with original ideas, and I guess continuing off of the idea of getting inspiration for that stuff, I'm always interested in people that write battery music if they, same way I find inspiration from movies and from like literal still art and from just music that I listen to write stuff that I do in sound design, which translates, I think, a little bit more in a straight ahead fashion because it's almost like we're writing movies or movie soundtracks lately.
It is.
But was there any other kind of pull that might have, you think, trickled into the writing you were doing? Even though like this is like your first like major book that you've written, do you think it was all just from like the literal drumline playing, or do you think there's anything even inspired by like brass playing that interests you and influenced some of the parts that you write? If not, it's fine.
I don't really know. I never really thought about it. I just really wanted to get into it because it seemed cool. I mean, as silly as that sounds, like, oh, I get to write stuff and people play it. Like,
yeah, which is sick.
That's sick. I love that. I do really love when drumline music is really written and is supportive of the brass. Like you mentioned the brass. I think Tom Monks does a great job of that. He writes very appropriately to the core.
Absolutely.
He doesn't just take it, oh, this is a drumline show, I'm going to write drumline parts.
Yeah.
Like, he's very good at that. And I think, I am writing for an indoor percussion group, so there's not really any brass to support, but it is supportive of the Pit's role and how the show's, like, what's supposed to get your eye or what music you're supposed to hear at a certain time.
Exactly.
So I think that was really cool to try and write around a Pit book instead of just writing snare, bass, tenor with nothing else. I actually had to write to the Pit book, which is actually tough. It's not just, you can't just think of something in your brain as just a drumline part because it's not going to work if you just throw in random music with a Pit book in front of it. So you need to actually make sure it works with that Pit book. So I think that was a fun challenge.
Yeah.
As a first time writer.
For sure. And I think indoor is fun too because I think more often than in drum corps you're able to maybe even just start with strictly a battery phrase and then build things out of that, and kind of come at it from different directions more often. Because I guess we don't have to, cater to a brass line, which is, one of the main driving forces in a drum corps show. It's a bit different. You can be a little more experimental. And that's, not to say that it doesn't happen in drum corps, but I think you can do it more consistently. For example, like I said, coming at it from, battery first standpoint, if everyone's aware of the concept and how it's working, or even if it's just like a cool lick that you can develop and then have some back and forth on. Like when I write with Kevin, it's always, I don't think there's a concrete way we do things. At a certain point, like I'll say like, hey, here's like some source music, like just like a YouTube video, and then he'll be like, oh, like I'll just write some beats. So he just writes things, and like for example with a tune we used this year for our winter show at Newtown, Vicky by Andrea Kehoe. It's a piano tune. We were looking at this, we're like, wow, it sounds cool, but I don't know how we're going to use this. So he ended up writing, I think it might have been like a hit and some stuff leading up to it initially, like a battery hit. But he was, if I'm correct, trying to use some of the rhythms that were used inside this tune. Andy Kehoe, he's actually used to March Cadets. He was a bass drummer. Cool. He ended up going to like Yale School of Music, pretty sure. I need to fact check myself before I talk about these things.
I'll just assume it's right.
Yeah. But he's become just a hugely popular contemporary composer, but uses a lot of percussive elements. So in this piano piece, it's heavily percussive, and it's just like this one kind of motif that's repeated in different variations a million times. So that's why we're kind of scared about doing the piece. Granted, we only need a minute and a half.
Right. You don't want it to be too repetitive.
Yeah, but I guess long story short, he would use rhythms from that stuff. He'd write the battery hit, and then I would consider both things and then try to do something together at the same time. So in that case, like he wrote this hit, I was like, oh, like there's these really loud, kind of like muted piano notes in it that sound pretty ballsy. So I took that and I got an MP3 of just that note, and I would put that note in different pitches on like the ends of phrases inside of it
and stuff.
Yeah, so we'd end up like doing things that way, and then the music happens in that way. But then there's like I'll write sound design, and then he'll do pit parts, and then the battery.
So you do sound design, then pit, then battery? Is that like kind of the general?
I think in general so far. I mean, this is our third, well, really fourth show writing together, but the third of really kind of the process that we're doing now. I didn't quite know what I was doing until probably last year. more or less, because I would be able to write soundscapes for like 7th
Yeah,
Regiment, but
sure.
I had never really done sound design. That was 2017. I'm thinking of
Like an entire show.
Yeah,
like an entire
exactly.
production.
But yeah, I think in general it'll happen that way a lot. And I talked to my podcast about questioning, like, I wonder if other people do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I had a couple people come to me from some other groups in WGI. There's a world-class group and stuff too. They were telling me, like, yeah, because the front ensemble arrangers typically tend to be the sound designers.
Yeah.
So
or
they'll
work very closely with them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very they're crucial to work together.
So they'll have the situation probably where you're in, where they just bad writers just get the stuff and then they write it.
Yeah.
Obviously they talk to each other, but yeah. I don't know. That was a tangent, but I just think it's interesting, especially because you're just starting. I think it's super cool.
No, it's cool. And also we had samples from a 30 Seconds to Mars song in it, so it was cool to kind of write with to write along to a popular song that I knew.
Yeah,
that was really fun. It is cool. You just you find source music, like, damn, that's cool. All right, let's use this. Like, and it's cool how you, as a writer, or a show designer, you just get to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of makes it fun. Like, I listen to songs on my car, like car rides or whatnot. I'm like, this could be a cool show, or like this could be a cool movement. And it's cool that as a someone starting to write, or someone who is getting into that side of the activity, you might be able to do that in the future.
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of answers my question. I don't know how many minutes ago that was at this point. But yeah, I guess that is a good tie-in. Like, if you listen to something and you're like, oh, this would be cool for a show, and then finding ways to write to that, I guess, is probably the I guess the first inclination of inspiration for applying other types of art to battery music, I guess.
Right. I mean, maybe if you're more like spiritual or I don't know, philosophical person, you might have some sort of idea, and then you find source music that works with that idea. Yeah. But that's not really me. I just kind of like, I would hear something and be like, oh, that's cool. I like this feeling. So this is what it should be based on.
That's what I ended up doing. I was like, oh, we'll do it. Something about change in dandelions. Wonder what that's gonna sound like.
Now, what music should we use?
Is this all not to be told to the public yet? Are we not?
I don't know.
Oh well.
Secrets out.
Dandelions. Dandelions. Yeah, because in my podcast too, I was talking about, like, it doesn't have to be this whole philosophical, like,
it doesn't.
Exposition.
Yeah.
Obviously Pulse, I think, is a great example of they just taking an idea like the tables thing.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
They work around that, and it works.
Yeah.
It's cool.
What was that? It was like an actual dance piece from like wartime era.
Was that this past year?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the show. I can't remember the piece.
I remember, I think it might have been John or something that posted like a video of the original. He might have just talked about it and I searched it, but yeah, it was like a whole thing, like with the table they did in the beginning, and then just basing a whole production like roller coaster right out of that, which is super effective, and it was obviously super dope.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then what was it? UP? What were you guys doing at UP? I only saw it once on, like, from the side.
We did a show about Beethoven losing his hearing.
Oh, so, right. Yeah.
It was kind of like we used a lot of course, his music as source material. And throughout the show, as the show went on, it sort of, we played more and more ghost notes, and just kind of more and more things kind of were like unsettling, I think. Sometimes like at finals, there was a huge sound of feedback in the speaker, but I thought it was actually kind of cool.
There we go.
Because it's kind of like the ringing in the ear.
Oh,
we did have like a ringing sample, but the feedback was like, that's some serious ringing. So it was a really, really cool show idea. I really enjoyed the idea they came up with for that show, because I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, some groups play some ghost notes, but we played a lot of ghost notes. And we ended the show with a bunch of like, it was silent, but all of us were pretending to like slam our drums and like it's all about his frustration as he goes deaf. Oh yeah, okay, I remember that. So we kind of ended the show with silence, and you could just hear us like grunting on the floor, like, and then and the center snare like let out like a roar at the end, like, I don't know, I guess of anger or frustration. And we had like a deaf character, like a dancer, She was supposed to represent deafness, sort of like almost like sneaking around and like coming up on Beethoven, without, or like he doesn't know what he's fighting, and she's sort of taking him down. So that was sort of the show idea.
This stuff is just so out of my like realm of thought. Because there's so many ways you can approach shows. Like I think that like that's the first time I've heard of something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool for sure.
And then like obviously like the Dream Electric was a huge show when that happened too.
That was also kind of like a weird show, and
yeah,
and then I mean the 2 years before that, CWP did really weird shows, which is what kind of really attracted me there.
Yeah.
Like they did the copy of a copy of a copy of a,
mm-hmm.
and I don't know, nothing about that show like particularly stood out except like how it just was different. I don't even know how to describe it. Like the body was different, the playing was different, and it just kind of made you feel like interesting. And then they did everyone knows the refrigerator deconstructed.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows that. Like that's just funny, but also really cool. And they ripped off their clothes. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think they got banned from a high school for that.
Probably.
But yeah, that's a cool story. But yeah, I think those kinds of shows are like super interesting, where it just makes you like feel a different way. It's not that you can't even put your finger on it always.
Yeah.
It's just like, why do I like this? But I do.
Have you been looking into WGI a lot before you had joined? I mean, obviously you're doing high school WGI. Like, did you have groups that you were looking towards when you were younger that you just thought were cool, maybe even for similar ways before CWP existed?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been more of a DCI guy myself.
Same.
That's kind of what really got me into the, higher level marching arts.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of did WGI because it was fun, it was cool, it was more band. So, but that wasn't really my main thing. I did really love, of course, Rhythm X 2010 Inspired. Like,
oh yeah, that was the first one that I saw.
I remember watching that on my couch at my house when I was 14 or whatever, and just being like, holy crap, that is cool.
It was pretty cool.
I mean, that's not like any emotional or it's emotional and it's aggressive, but it's not like abstract at all. It's very concrete, but it was a cool show.
Oh yeah.
And that really attracted me to WGI. But I guess when it came time to actually audition, also the thing with WGI is you're totally limited to where you live.
Yeah.
Unless you're willing to move, which I was not because I just started college. So
take a year off college.
Yeah, what am I gonna do? Just take I mean, some people do that. I know TJ, he works with Cadets. I think he after high school he's in college now, many years after high school, because he wanted to be able to go around the country to march where he wanted, which is super cool that he was able to do that. But not everyone can do that, so it is kind of dependent on where you live.
Yeah.
But luckily, I really liked what CWP had done, and they were not close by, but they were the closest by world-class group.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a 6-hour car ride. So.
Were they based out of Allentown for that? Or was it a rehearse in New Jersey type deal at the cadets camps?
It was, yeah, we would share housing sites with cadets when there was a cadets camp, but sometimes we'd move around between like a couple different schools. Those cadets camps were tough because the guys who were doing cadets we would take turns with blocks. So like the morning block we'd be CWP.
Oh wow.
The afternoon block we'd go to cadets.
Jeez. Evening
block go back to CWP for ensemble. Like it was mind frying.
That's difficult. Wow.
Yeah, and that was my first. Yeah, and that was like my first year doing any world class, and my first year in college. So my grades weren't too great. But it was a lot to handle, but it was really a good experience.
Man, I think Rhythm X was one of the first groups I paid attention to as well. I specifically Gone in 2008. I think I don't even know if there's a video up anymore. There was one like good video up for a while, but I think there's like a ancient, like a first iPhone kind of video of the show now. Potato iPhone. I don't even know what it was. Same thing with Inspired. Like I just saw those and I was just like, I like this. I didn't know why.
I think it's just they're so into the show, the performers.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. Like it attracts you.
And I don't know what happened after that. I stopped watching WGI. I don't know why. I think my brain started to shift. I started growing up.
That. I stopped watching band. The past like 2 years, I've barely watched any DCI or WGI. Like I just did it. I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't watch a ton either. WGI I paid attention to more. Like last year was the first
Right.
time I actually got to go out to WGI finals and stuff, and like actually watch shows, mainly prelims and stuff.
Yeah.
Because we get in there. But I'd only seen UP and Cadets Winter Percussion prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd never seen any of those SoCal groups before. Nothing.
Wow.
I was just like,
Until you went to Dayton.
it was just all on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, we had like Dartmouth out in the East Coast, so there's like some kind of
Yeah.
standard happening that I could have seen before that. Yeah, it was really mind blowing.
It's nuts. I feel like one part that's really cool is you can take a lot more risks. I feel like with WGI,
Yeah, definitely.
like you said in your podcast episode, it's much more experimental. You can try new things easier.
Yeah.
It's easier to try things in WGI.
The rules are a little bit more liberal and stuff. Than
Rules are flexible.
drum
There's less
corps.
members on the floor.
Yeah.
like, so it's less of a logistical nightmare to really change things around rapidly.
Yeah.
And also you're inside, so you get away with some of the dirt that you can't play outside.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one thing. Like people are like, oh, they're playing this crazy stuff with these WGI groups. Like, why aren't these DCI groups playing it? It's like, well, it's the same exact kids,
Yeah.
but it's because you can't get away with it
Yeah.
outside. Like you just can't. And
Yeah.
some people hate WGI for that. Like especially the old school guys are like, oh, it's dull, it's all dirty, it's all gray. But some people are like, yeah, but it's cool. Like it's working. So it is sort of just its own beast. I feel like.
I guess it's like WGI is kind of feeding DCI a little bit.
Definitely.
I'm also one of the people that's totally sorry about putting woodwinds in DCI. I mean, no one's gonna have a whole woodwind section. It's just like
I know.
someone will do
Oh
it
my
just because
God.
they're a bunch of cornballs out there
Yeah.
in top 12 DCI for sure. But
I've been seeing all those posts. I'm like you guys, this isn't the end of the world. Like
no one's gonna raise
No-
kids' tuition fees to $6,000 to pay for all these clarinets breaking every couple days.
yeah, I really don't understand the beef with that. Like, and everyone's like, but it's gonna rain. Like, what are you gonna do? It's like, well, let the chorus figure that out. That's not
Yeah,
your
I don't
problem.
know.
like,
So I think probably a really good example of how they could be used. I was commenting on Omi's
Mhm.
Facebook post at one point.
Oh yeah, I
Just
saw
like,
that comment actually.
especially as someone designing a show like Blue Knights, they played a piece that I think a couple of drum corps have played since then in 2014, where there's just like this one note. It's just I think in the original piece, a clarinet that just goes up and dives down. They could have just had a real clarinet that sounded way better, or because I know there's corps that have just outlandishly good woodwind players.
Oh yeah,
It's like, oh hey, like
they have INEs for that.
yeah, and it's like, oh, like you have a clarinet, you could just play this part. It might potentially sound better than these samples we have.
Yeah, or at least feels like more like real, like
Yeah.
raw, instead of just like perfectly synthesized.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like little elements like that where you could just interject something. And obviously you probably don't want someone to just pick up a clarinet for that sole purpose.
Yeah.
And just bounce and just have it like that. But I guess like a compositional idea that would relate to there being woodwinds
Mhm.
in general. But yeah, I can't imagine anyone trying to really just throw out that saxophone section.
Yeah, no, I would not anticipate that ever happening
No.
in the near future.
Because like trombones is one thing. Like after Scouts introduced that, Van Gogh was just like, bet.
Cadets did it right after
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
The French horns in
Yep.
2015 and stuff. I think that was 2015, right?
and
Yeah.
16. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's the same with like the live singing too, which I
Oh,
was.
right.
You know,
yeah.
some people. I was not really a fan of how we did it at Cadets, but
Mhm.
some people really pulled it off, and it's just like, why would you not let anyone use singers?
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. Like maybe someone could really pull off something with a woodwind. Like why are we so scared to let people try?
Yeah. And my argument was it's just like, my guys, like sound design, we can literally use literally anything we want. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's not like
it's
there's-
already
yeah.
in the samples.
There's already clarinet sounds, or there's already flutes.
It's like we could just have someone play it, as opposed to like using samples and like Crown 2013. Like I can only imagine if they had to force the synth
Yeah.
players to play like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4.
Oh my, yeah.
That'd be pretty rad. But
Yeah.
or you could just have it logistically make more sense, make the show better if they just had some people on the mics up there.
Mhm.
I think it was also more impactful too, just seeing those people up there saying those things like in the multicam and all that.
Yeah,
But it also just adds another visual element to the show.
definitely,
definitely. I could go on all day about how I feel about ancient drum corps people, but I don't know. I guess I can kind of scoot things over to just asking you some random
Yeah,
questions.
go for it. Anything.
Okay, where are we at? We're at like probably like an hour.
Jeez, that went pretty fast actually.
Hour 4 minutes. All right.
All right.
So yeah, let's, Oh, here's a fun one.
Okay.
This one's still drum corps related or just band related. So, being a quad player,
Sure.
how do you feel about the match versus traditional debate at this point in your life?
like for snare drummers.
Yeah. For snare drummers.
I was like, as a quad player, yeah, we
Traditional
use
quad.
I guess the logical side of me knows there's no advantage to traditional. But I do love
Unless you get the forward tilt,
unless you get the
which I'm super
the
into.
forward tilt. But I am super about the look of like. I guess that's the old school part of me. Like, I do love how it looks, but there is no practical like benefit of doing it. So I kind of just I don't voice my opinion on that. I don't. You use whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
I'll just say I've come so accustomed to it that I'm like, I think it looks better with.
The match grip.
Yeah, I feel like just like
I mean,
I'm the liberal of the arts world, but
a progressive, really pushing the activity.
pushing it.
We're using match grip. Well, Vanguard tried it. What was it? 04? Or
05,
or more
and then there was
05.
one dark time in the 90s where they did that, and I think it was actually really bad.
That is the thing. If it's almost like we got to make up our minds, because like high school, I see like a bunch of high schools using match grip now.
Yeah.
But then what are they expected to just learn traditional for core? Like,
Pretty much.
Does that make any sense?
No,
it doesn't. I don't know. That is the one part of me. It's like, I'll miss traditional grip, but it's probably gonna go away. Like,
Yeah.
I don't doubt it.
I'll be the person to get rid of it. I'm so about it. I saw it. I mean, Vessel had one part of their show, which it made more sense to play. They were just playing extremely soft.
Yeah.
But they switched to match grip. I was like, I like how that looks.
Yeah.
I was like, I've seen it in a world class group, and I'm waiting to see more of it.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to predict it'll be more of like they'll play traditional grip as an homage to the past, but then the most of the show will be match grip. It's like, oh yeah, we still remember this, but
2030.
we don't really use it.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because you could still. I mean, people could do that on the flat drums, and I still think personally it's super valid to have the forward tilt thing.
Oh, you're serious about that?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm super about it.
God.
I'm not joking. Like,
oh no.
I think they do that at Chino. I think they slightly move them forward. No, nothing crazy. Like
yeah,
like
just like
a degree
like a
or two.
bit. I guess, yeah, that could work.
But that's also with the traditional grip, not like down with the match grip.
Oh,
that's what I mean. Sorry,
down
yeah.
with traditional grip.
Yeah, so it's like a rope drum.
Oh, I was like imagining
Theoretically.
match grip with an angle down. I was like,
Oh no.
I don't know.
My bad.
That's a little weird. Maybe the reverse tilt back.
Like those what are those
The
bass drums?
Yeah, whatever those are. Hopefully forget about those.
Oh god, was it Dynasty?
I don't know.
Like I'm sure a couple companies made them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is the new thing.
Oh, it's not.
Psych. Okay. So I guess another question. Do you have, like, at the moment, do you have like a favorite artist or band or anything that you ever listen
Like
to?
pop music, like
anything,
like just anything. This is always a tough question people ask me because a lot of my music is just one song from an artist. Like I don't listen to albums.
Mhm.
I don't listen to artists specifically. I might have more songs from an artist.
Yeah.
But I don't have like, albums.
That's still valid.
Yeah. I mean, 7th grade me, still loves Linkin Park. I
Absolutely.
guess. But that's like a throwback. But like
Yeah.
a lot of what I listen to is sort of rock oriented, like pop rock, punk rock, classic rock. And then, but also a lot of like acoustic covers and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the interpretations of, like maybe the pop songs get the structure right, and it's like a nice song. But I prefer how the people who cover it, their take on it.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people like give me crap for like having so many covers. I don't even know sometimes if it's a cover. I'm like, oh, I like this song. It's like, oh, that's a cover. I don't know.
You listen to a lot of covers.
Yeah,
Anthony.
I guess the more I listen to, and the more I get recommended covers on Spotify.
Yeah.
I don't know, a variety of stuff, but no particular like artists.
What do you have? What did you listen to on the way here? If you did.
Oh God, I mean, what did I listen to? I listened to a Pink song.
That's wild.
Yeah, I listened to some other rock. Oh, I listened to like a Rocket to the Moon song.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. We went back and forth. It's just kind of
cool.
whatever's on my playlist.
Yeah. Okay, and then in the same vein, I pretty much ask pretty much the same couple questions every time, just 'cause I think it's interesting. Do you have a movie that you particularly like, or a genre of movie that you typically
I know you like
particularly like?
I know you like the horror movies. Right?
I do.
You mentioned that.
That's one. Yeah, I think they're interesting. I don't know why. Just developed that over time.
I definitely like.
I know it's hard to like pick one out.
Yeah, it is really hard for me to pick one out. Because I'm not like a movie guy.
Yeah.
I like movies. Like who doesn't like movies? But I'm not like a connoisseur.
For sure. Yeah.
I just enjoy them casually. Probably like action, like with some comedy, I guess. I don't know, like
we're talking like Kevin Hart or like
21
like Jumanji.
Jumanji. Hey, that wasn't bad. I don't, kind of whatever. Yeah, I'm not a strong movie guy, so I don't really have a strong opinion on anything.
Okay. No,
I don't like cheesy stuff. Like I do not like tons of explosions. I don't like anime. Sorry.
Come on, son. It's an acquired taste.
It is. My roommate likes it, so I see some of it. But
word. Well, yeah. Thanks for stopping by, dude.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Trying to find the Connecticut people.
Oh yeah.
At least to start out, just to
for sure.
Get the culture out there.
Locals.
I keep seeing videos of Joe Rogan and Chris D'Elia making Connecticut jokes.
Oh God.
Not that they're wrong,
I
but
follow Chris D'Elia on Twitter. He's funny.
Hey, I was watching something yesterday. It's just like, it was a video of Matthew McConaughey's Instagram. If you've ever seen that,
no, I haven't.
He loves to roast it. It's pretty weird.
Oh man.
He's like just this old guy that uses it totally incorrectly, but he's like talking about when he's gonna open presents on Christmas, and he's wearing this like velvet blue suit looking thing, and he's just like, it's like, yeah, this dude's a great actor, but why is he dressing like some guy from Connecticut right now? Who is he? Yeah. But yeah, all right. I guess that's about it.
All right.
So,
well, thank you.
For sure. See you guys.
I'll see you tomorrow at rehearsal.
Yeah.